Welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. Here on a midweek episode, we have the honor of, for the first time in our history, we started this in 2020, February 2020, and it's finally here, the day that we get the head coach for San Diego Loyal on Two Balls and a Mic. Along with the good and well-bearded Alan Underwood, we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
I mean, Nate, if you want to go ahead, I think you should have the honors of going first.
I'm doing great, guys. Preparations for the season. It's good to be on with you guys. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing great. We're talking about this
Miss Torero.
incredible, torrential downpour that we've been experiencing here. Everything okay with you, Nate? You know, there's the office is in Mission Valley. I was concerned. Some flooding there. Did you have to canoe to the office or anything like that?
Oh, I tried to go to the office on Monday because my kids were off school, and therefore I need to go to the offices, make sure I get work done. And I could not get to the office, even if I parked in. I think it was like the Trader Joe's parking lot. I couldn't even walk there. So I made my way there today, but something.
Yeah, this city was not designed for any sort of heavy rain, and can't even collect the water. Like I was thinking, at least there's not going to be a drought. It doesn't work that way. We have to find a way to collect the water. But that's besides the point. I know everybody was very happy and joyous when we saw the announcement that you were coming on down as San Diego Loyal's new head coach. And just wanted to get your reaction now, kind of sitting on that and having to work now as a head coach into next season. Is there anything different this time around as far as your preparation starting the preseason?
I think this coaching change would be the least change maybe that we've ever seen in a coaching change. I think we've had a really good structure. Lennon's done a really good job, like putting people in roles to do their jobs. And so I don't think for the players, it'll feel too much different. Just spent all day with him today. We're planning and doing things. So, I think it's a seamless transition. This is something that kind of, we've been talking about since August or maybe July. And so it's not something that is out of the ordinary. Obviously, it's an honor for me to be the head coach here, but I'm working within the same structure with the same leadership. And as you guys have seen with most of the same players. So continuity has been very important to us with on the field success. And this is just another way of doing it. But I'm certainly, grateful and honored to be staying in San Diego.
Great. Alan?
As far as obviously Landon mentioned that you've done a lot of like the day-to-day coaching. But I know that you finished up your pro license and got all that work done. I'm sure that's a huge weight off your shoulders. Is there anything that you're hoping to, like, now that maybe you have a little bit more control over things, it's like a little bit more on you? Is there something that you're bringing to the team that's a little bit different? Like you're like, hey, we're going to try to implement something new or something you picked up in that training that you're hoping to see on the pitch this year?
Yeah, I know that's a question I've been getting a lot. I think the reality is we've had the main game idea, our vision of what we want the club to be and how we want to play and manage the team since we all got here, and we've been improving it slowly, getting better, bringing in better players, and we make adjustments from year to year, and the same will be from 2022 to 2023. We'll make adjustments, and that maybe from the outside look like that's my adjustment compared to someone else's, but it's really just the next adjustment that we know as a staff is necessary to be the best in the USL. So to answer your question directly, like there isn't, I think that's why I've enjoyed working for Landon so much. It's not like I have all this different way of working that's suddenly going to come out. Like it's going to feel very similar day to day for the players. Obviously, whenever there's a new leader, like the main leader every day, yes, there's differences. But I think a lot of those things will be nuanced. And then a lot of the changes you'll see are just the same, will be things to try to get us to the next level like we would every year. I don't think there's like this huge change. And I think that's intentional. We didn't want there to be a huge change. We really like the trajectory we're on. Yes, there will be some changes. Yes, there's always going to be changes from year to year, but I think that's that's the strength of this, adjustment in the roles and who's sitting in what seat on the bus, is that the car is still going fast and it shouldn't slow down any momentum.
Yeah, so obviously, like you mentioned, the change is going to be pretty smooth. It's probably the smoothest change that any team's going to see when it comes to head coaching. But expectations remain the same then, right? For your team when it comes to making playoffs, when it comes to making it farther into playoffs, expectations all stay the same?
Well, they should be getting bigger. Every year, our expectations have been getting bigger as the club has grown. As we want to be the best in the USL, we want to be the elite. So, yeah, I think last year we showed that we can be a dominant team. We can be a team that's competing to be dominant at the top of the Western Conference. We've shown that we can do those things, and now it's about, of course, everyone knows doing it in the playoffs, but that's not something that like in January, February, March we can't exercise those October, November demons in March. It's not possible. You can create an environment that creates momentum and creates a journey that makes it more possible. But for us, it's now the main goal is to win the Western Conference outright, and there's a couple of really big obstacles in our way, and that's the fun part about it. So I think that expectations should be, if we want to be, I want to coach at big clubs. And I think that at our club, we don't think, can we compete for playoffs? I mean, I hope that we're always competing for playoffs. And I think the league is getting stronger, as you guys have seen, no more two teams. So you look at our schedule and it's like, oh my goodness. And so it's one of those things where, yes, that is where we want to be. Expectations should go up. I'm okay with everyone knowing that we want to win the Western Conference, and that's something that we're striving to do. And for us to get there, we need to keep doing certain things and then adjust to other little things.
And so on that same vein, right? Like, how do you go as far as thinking of moving into this next season with the thought, obviously, of the philosophy is already in the club, the play style is already in the club, everything's in line. Like, is anywhere in your headspace considering, well, whatever happens at the end of the year, this is my first season? Or do you approach it as, this is my third year here? Like, this is something that we've already worked together.
Yeah, I view it as my fourth year here for sure. And yeah, every year has been very different. Obviously, COVID year 2021 and 2022, we're able to bring in the talent. And so I think it's one of those things where, yes, I view this as like another step in the journey. And like the higher you go up, so the more steps you take, the thinner the air, the higher the altitude, it's harder. But that's what's fun about it. Like, just trying to survive is not how we think, but as you guys see, you guys watch all of our games, it's not how we play football. We play football to try to be dominant over our opponent, not to survive. And so I think this past year was a huge step, massive step. But let's take these core group of players that have been here since day one, right? Your Elijah's, your Colin, your Charlie, your Guido, these Toomey, all these guys, right? If we're 85% of the way there, or 80, this last 15-20% is going to require just as much effort, or even more. And we've been through a lot on the field, off the field, and it's going to be a big task at hand. But building a foundation, people from the outside don't maybe understand how much work it takes, but it's something that this group of players, and we're very proud of. And now it's about using all that graft that you build the foundation to reap the rewards, and like, we want the players to reward themselves now and by reaping the rewards, but it's going to be hard. And so, as you've seen, we have so many guys coming back, and now it's that chemistry, it's the continuity, it's fixing some problems, and then it's bringing in real key pieces like we did last year to help us get to a new level.
I have to agree there. Alan?
I know a lot of fans, they get to love players and really invest in really quality guys. From a coaching staff, when you see a guy like Jack Blake kind of leave the organization, how difficult is that for you as a coach? And are there guys it's like you knew they were leaving, so you're looking to replace? Or is it like it comes to the end of the season, you're like, hey, where are you at? Like, and how do you handle, you want to keep the core guys together, but there's obviously guys who might want a different look, might want a different situation, might want to move closer to maybe where family might be. How do you handle those transitions with a guy, as beloved as Jack Blake was for the fans?
Yeah, I understand things like this are difficult for the fans, and they're especially difficult for me because I really, really love having personal relationships with the players. So when difficult decisions have to be made, they like go straight to my heart, and it's difficult. It's the worst part of the job for me is making decisions that are hard. And I think, yeah, this club's as we're growing is good. It comes to a place where you have to make difficult decisions that are right for the club that really are painful to do. And I think what I love about how we work is that we don't just save everything. We're always having long-term conversations with players, right? So I know we announced all those guys returning, but probably six of those guys we had signed those new deals in June, and so it's like you don't just wait to the end to make these decisions because these are guys' lives, and they're always thinking about these things, just like me and you would be thinking about what's going to happen if you had a contract running up. Like it's
Yeah.
unrealistic to say just focus on the game. Well, I can't because what about my life? And so with Blake, he had another year on his contract, and it's just one of those things where we were kind of playing him out of positions at times to try to get him on the field, actually a lot of the time, and it was more like what type of players were we gonna how are we, when we have Colin, Charlie, Guido, and then another player that we want to bring in, we want to make sure that he's in a place where he can succeed. And I think that Jack Blake deserves to be on a team where he's like he plays a starring role. Like I think he's just performs better when he's kind of like the main guy. When you see around his career, he's been better when he's the main guy. And we weren't really using him that way in 2021. I think he was, and it's more like trying to, I just think about him and his career, and it's just everyone coming to the conclusion, look, like this is what could happen. How do we make sure everyone? We always think about how do we put our players in the best spots for them to perform. And if you can't come to that, have a clear vision of that, then I think that everyone needs to get together and find a solution. So I think we did that. We found a good solution. There was no like dead time for him there. Like he found a good new home, and I love Jack, and I hope it goes amazing there for him. I really do. I was happy we got him out of the Western Conference, so he can't hurt us with one of those bangers. And I'm
Okay.
not gonna lie, we made sure. I'm not gonna lie, we made sure that happened because there's no way we would have allowed that. But yeah, and then I think that it opened the door for us to bring in someone who fit a specific need for us, and that's football. And I think as long as you handle relationships the right way and look out for players as people first, for me it's always person over player, always. I think then yeah, in the short term it can suck and it can be painful, but hopefully it works out for everyone in the end.
Yeah, and just how players leave, there are players returning. So now, as a head coach, are there any specific players that you would want to see them personally step up or kind of bring it home
Call
to
him out.
so not call them out, but just
No,
that
no.
you have high expectations that they can improve a lot more
Yeah,
from last season.
no, I appreciate the question, Sheila. I think it's one of those. um yeah, I think there's a couple answers to that. I could rattle off like six guys and not answer your question, or I can say, look, like I think I personally believe in Evan Conway a lot. Like I think he's a top player. I think that statistically, when we looked at what his production was like, the underlying numbers when he played at striker, it's like top level. So yeah, he's gonna play more striker for us, and I think he can do the business. And I think that I believe in his mentality a lot. I think he's a really good young player with a great mentality, works his ass off, and he's a good teammate. And I think that he's shown that he can do the business. I think it's a really interesting stat about him. All nine of his league goals that he scored last year, he scored when the game was tied.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool, just small stat about says what he's like as a person. Because when you score goals is really important. There's a lot of guys that rack up goals and earn bigger contracts when those goals aren't necessary. When you're racking up goals that don't matter, or you're already winning a lot, or you're losing by three, those don't matter. But Evan scores big goals, and I expect him to be great. But I think he's just going to get on with it and do his job. And then I think at the end, we want to make adjustments in the back, so we proactively, we had been chasing Ebia Khan for years, just trying to get him here, and he'd come off not playing any football and was basically just stranded. And so I think he'll be a player. I think he's a top player, and I think that he's going to help us a lot in the back now that he has an off season and a preseason. And Jackson Kasanzu is a big prospect, 19 years old. He can do a lot of things, and what we know from what I know with working with young players is that after, how quickly an 18-year-old can improve is insane. So I think that, he's going to help us a lot. So a lot of this, I think those two signings we made mid-year were really meant for this year, were those two defensive signings. And I think those three guys specifically, I expect to step up because it's like, yes, do I expect Guido to step up? Yes, but he's been doing that for 3 years. Do I expect Colin to be a beast? Yes, but I expect all those guys to continue and to continue. And I expect Koke to be a lot better as well after his first full year of being a starter as a goalkeeper. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of guys, but our core guys, like they better keep doing the business. That's their job. So
100%. And
yeah.
obviously like that's inlaid and that's what you want. And coming into knowing this league, right? Like I can't say I was a USL expert before Loyal showed up. Not that I am now, but the having consistency in your rosters, it was something rare up to recently. It wasn't necessarily something where you'd have a project that spans a couple years. And so I guess that speaks to the different level of the league and where we're at and CBAs and stuff coming together. But I mean, let's talk a little bit about a player that was signed, obviously another Kiwi. Do you guys just have somebody watching New Zealand
and
games?
Is his name Nick
is it Nick Duffy? I mean, prolific San Diego loyal local. But yeah, I mean, big time player. Can you tell me a little bit something about Elliot Collier and some of what stood out for you and how he's going to fit into this new iteration of San Diego Loyal coming into the season?
Yeah, I mean, we've known about Elliot for a long time. I tried to get him on loan back in 2018 at my previous club when he was at the Fire, and I knew him in college. He was actually teammates with Grant Stoneman on our team, so at Loyola. So I've known about this guy for a while, and especially when he was playing for the Fire, and then obviously we played against him for San Antonio. And what I like about him is that he's obviously he's a big physical presence, but he's very versatile. He's for his height, he's 6'4". He's a very good dribbler. He's a playmaker. He's a very good defender from the front. He's a very selfless player. And it was really more about okay, what type of attacking players do we bring in that will make Among better, that Toomey can make better, that will play well with Evan, and it has to be the right fit. You can't have these guys do the same thing, right? So he fit the profile we were looking for, but I also know of him well and speaking to him just a great man, a great human being, and I think that was important to bring him in. And he's also a winner. He just won a USL championship, and I think that it's going to take some little nuanced stuff for us to get over the top. So I like Elliot. I think he's excited, I know, to be playing a totally different play style than where he came from. And I think it's a good challenge for him. I think he's ready to he wants to play our style of football. And I think he's a really versatile striker, and I'm excited for him. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does.
I like that. It's that age-old question is, do you go for somebody who's going to fit your style, or are you going to go for somebody who would thrive if in a different style if they were able to learn it? So that's interesting that in of itself, this is somebody who can thrive, as you said, in if the circumstances are inlaid right.
It honestly gives kind of like Miguel Berry vibes, right? That tall physical player that San Diego Loyal were playing great when they had Miguel Berry as well. So it's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. It's you can't look at who. It's all about right player, right club, right coach, right time. And you see these guys who are poor somewhere else. And then Mitch Tainher couldn't find the field for Sacramento. People don't remember this. He couldn't start for them. And then he's the defensive player of the year, wins an MLS Cup. And so he has all this value now in the market, but before, no. And then there's other players that go from being really successful in one club and then not at the other. So I think so much time, I think, in recruitment, we're so short-sighted and just look at the previous year and what they did. And I think that's when you make a lot of mistakes, because first of all, you have to know yourself. And that's actually the hardest part, is to actually be objective and know who you are as a club, who you are as a coach, exactly what your locker room and culture is like. And then you recruit from there. And I think our league should be a place where you rediscover players, and players can come and find their best selves. in a different environment. And I think we can do that. I think we've done that for players, man. We did that for Rubio, Miguel Berry. I think we helped Jack Mayer a lot. I think that's a good. I think the strength of ours is identifying the right people and the right players.
Agree with that, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely noticeable. Like we were talking about a little bit about like Conway before you came on, and it was just like, I mean, we're talking about like Toomey year one to Toomey year two. Like it's really fun to be able to get to see those development and the work that they get put in, and sometimes it's just someone having faith that they have something in them that you don't see like game 1, game 2, game 3. You see it, you know, game 15, game 16, or even year 2. With that being said, like you joked a little bit about before we came on, but like obviously you have some benchmark goals. Like first quarter of the season, what does success look like for San Diego Loyal and Coach Nate Miller?
Yeah, I think I need to be looking at the schedule while I'm talking to you, but I think it's so hard. Like I've learned, like this is I've learned this the hard way. You cannot go down a schedule and say, okay, that's probably a win. Like maybe we do well to get a draw. It does not work that way. Like you look at like, so if last year you just said, okay, away to Tampa, oh, that's hard, man. That's going to be flying across the country. Like we got that win. And then there's other games you're like, wow, we should have gotten a win there. And it's just, that's not how football works. And so at the end of the day, what I want to do is like, yeah, we want to be the dominant team in the West, and we want to be playing great the way we want to play football. And then we want to be at our best going into the playoffs. So like I can't carve out that perfect path. If we could do that, everyone would be doing this job, and it's very hard to do that. You know, I want to go through preseason and build this team, and like there's so many also things out of our control. And you look at our schedule, the way it goes, there's these huge long road stretches, and then there's these home stands, and like sometimes people look at like when we got hot and when we struggled a bit, like, well, we played 6 games in a row last summer and we dominated those 6 games and we were at the top of the league and everyone thought we were awesome, you know? And so we were a pretty good team. And so I think it's one of those things where we also don't know what these other clubs are going to look like, because it's not just who you play, you know, it's just when you play them. Like we played Monterey at the end of both games against Monterey at the end, and they were very strong. And in the beginning, they were being walked over. So I don't know how good, you know, Sacramento is going to be day one. I don't know what Detroit City is going to look like day one. So what we can control is us. So I hope one of our goals is to be like a very, very tough defensive team on the road, just being better on the road. And I don't mean playing defensively, because we don't do that. What I mean is just be like harder on the road. And we have this road trip, right, where we go 4 games away on the road. We go away to Pittsburgh, away to Indy, away to Hartford, and then away to Colorado Springs. So 3 Eastern Conference time zones. This is in a row, all 4 on turf. All 4 in the middle of the summer. And so, you know, this is actually interesting. Like, first time I've told an outside people this, but we're actually going to travel more than any club in the whole world in this season.
Oh, wow.
So if you think about it logically, as we started to think about it as a staff and we started to do the math, and we're in the southwest corner of the United States, the USL put us on these away trips that are pretty, you know, on these East Coast trips, and by far the biggest country that has a league of our size. And so you start doing the math, and it's pretty incredible. So it'll be a cool story to tell at the end of the year. And yeah, it's like 40,000 air miles, guys. So it's very hard. If you tell me what is success, it's like, well, like as a whole on 34 games, I know what success looks like, but it's hard to like detail that out from day one. I've learned the hard way.
That's incredible. Just, I mean, you don't really think about that, right? And obviously you're talking the minutia, right? And this is what I love talking to you, Nate. It's that, yeah, that we're going to have a stretch of away games on turf in the summer. Like those are just 3 individual factors that put together can spell anything in any given soccer game. But I mean, is this daunting? Is it, do you just, you know, I mean, this is why you must love it, right? But just waking up in the middle of the night, just like, oh, bam, September 9th, we're over at Charleston. Like, oh man, like I can't. Like, relax. We're still in February.
Yeah.
We're in January. But is that what it's like at this point?
Yeah, the seasons are so long, so it's like what we're experiencing right now is the exception, not being in season. So it just becomes like a rhythm. Not gonna lie, it is hard, and when I'm fatigued, I know the team is extremely fatigued. So it's a challenge, but it's also what makes it fun. I think our team doesn't know that yet, that we're going to travel more than any club in the world. But I think they'll take that as a challenge, and I think that they'll rise to it only, especially because again they're a returning group that have been through a lot together. They've been through big statements we've made on and off the field. They've been through totally like USL dominant performances that are like even hard to like. We've just played some great football. We've achieved some things, but they know what our goals aren't met yet, and so I think knowing our guys like Charlie and Guido, these guys will, Stoney, these guys um, will use us as a motivating factor. And it's also a good challenge as a staff and a medical staff to like prepare the team for this and create high performance even when you're faced with like extreme situations.
Don't forget about that Open Cup in the middle too. That's going to throw some wrenches in there as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
I mean, sorry.
Gotta throw that in there, Alan.
No.
oh man, like that's what it takes to be a professional. Like it's
Yeah.
unspoken truth about this gig, right? Is those air miles, travel, everything.
And that's the thing, right? With all these games, it's got to be a lot of rotations to make sure players are not getting injured, to make sure players get some rest. But with that kind of comes with preseason, right? So what are you excited to see in preseason when it comes to just being able to rotate your squad and just seeing everyone together?
Yeah, I think we worked very hard to make the preseason schedule exactly how we wanted it. And so, in the third week of preseason, I basically tried to play the two best rosters in the country. And we achieved that with New York City and LAFC. Like, let's put our guys up against that, see how that goes. And so I think it's a challenging preseason. Like last preseason, I think we had a wonderful preseason with how we built and how we did, and we started the season very, very well. So yeah, I think the key is not to make assumptions that we're gonna like everything that we accomplished last year is automatically going to roll over. You have to build those foundations and those principles that like guide you, and you have to nail those. And our players know this, and so preseason is just work. It's not as different. We still have the same rhythm. We play a match at the end of the week, and like I plan out the whole preseason on how we're going to improve each area of our game, and then we use the match as feedback. And for sure, it lets us play like very valuable time for like you get to play every weekend. Duran, who's 16, gets to play in goal, and just it's also like a time for player development when there's no pressure for a result. You get to really see how guys have progressed.
Congratulations on CJ and Duran, obviously youngsters who's having their beginnings here in San Diego locally. And again, thank you on behalf of the city, just because that wasn't readily available to the kids of this community coming up. So it's great to see. Alan, I know you had a question lined up regarding this right here.
Oh yeah. I saw that you posted your favorite autobiography.
Yeah.
So any other book recommendations from besides like The Ball Is Round? anything or anything you have lined up as like the next read?
Yeah, it's good. I just got someone for Christmas gave me the book Grit, so I just started by Angela Duckworth. So I'm reading that. I'm always reading a book, so my rule on planes is I don't do screens, so that's my time to read.
I like that.
Yeah, that the Nelson Mandela book was awesome. I like learning about history, but I much prefer doing it through autobiographies because I think I really enjoy that, and so I really enjoyed reading about that. And looking forward to. Toomey said he wanted to read it, so I was going to hand it to him, and because he hasn't read that book, actually, obviously being from South Africa. So, no, I have a few good ones lined up, and so I'm just looking around my library right here. See what I was going to read next, but yeah, I think I'm reading this book. We'll see where it goes next. I have like a list that I always have ready to go, so I'm always starting the next one. I think there was an Adam Grant book I was going to read after that. So, no, I get a lot more time to read over the holidays, which is nice.
It's awesome. Well, speaking of reading, right? Terrible segue, but I don't want to read in too much into it. But you guys probably practically told the entirety of San Diego. We touched on one player coming into the season. Obviously, is going to drop after the big announcement happening tomorrow. Um, but you know him, you love him. Wasn't Sweetwater from years around 2007 to 2010 ish, around there, 2009. San Diego State alum. You saw him in such recreational fields like El Parque de Lala, just locally, local kid. Thank you, Nate Miller, for giving me the opportunity as a Sweetwater High School graduate, class of 2010, of finally joining the San Diego Loyal. And I mean, it's an honor. But I don't know if you know, we went to high school with the newest player coming in, Joe Benny Corona. So that's the big announcement coming up. Take us through that, right? I heard sources let me know that there was a meeting between yourself and Landon earlier this week, or maybe last week, just kind of getting stuff checked off and done. But I mean, locally, what a signing. That's something that off the field we've been asking for, is more local talent, more local kids. We got one in Joe Corona, obviously playing everywhere here, and I can't wait to just talk to him later on. But walk us through that, Nate. Pretty big signing.
Yeah, it's a big signing. I know for everyone in San Diego that means a lot, and that's important to us. It's my responsibility. I think when you get the opportunity to sign someone with that pedigree and someone who's from who's from Chula Vista, from right here. His wife is who just got married is from here. He grew up here. He's like a local legend. And so then it becomes my responsibility to make sure that it's going to fit on the field. Because I think there's a lot of wrong reasons to sign players that get people excited, and people live life on social media now, and it's like people want to decide who wins the season based on like who's signing who. It's like, hey, it doesn't work that way. But it I met with Joe. We went out for coffee maybe a month or so ago, and just get to know each other. And like, it was, he's had a huge career, played for Cholos, America, LA Galaxy. He's been everywhere. And so, but this is his hometown, and it's going to mean a lot to him to play here. And it, I think for me, it's my responsibility to make sure that he's going to be the perfect fit on the field. And that's the exciting part, is I really believe he is. He's going to bring really, really important experience, which we really needed, I think, to get to the next level. He's like an incredible like teammate, really good human being. And he's just like you guys see how we play. We build around our midfield, and that's bringing in a highly technical, experienced, intelligent player to our midfield is only going to make us better. And so I'm excited to bring Joe to the club. I think this is, when this club started, this is the exact kind of signing I think people would be like, man, it'd be awesome to bring Joe Corona back to San Diego, and so I think that's an exciting thing. But I think at the end of the day, he knows it's not about being the face and doing this. It's about doing the business on the field, and I think he'll do that. And I think he's just going to make us a lot better.
And at the end of the day, he just creates even more competition right within the players who I know you've always liked. It's always good to have that inner competition to compete for a spot. And you have a goldmine of a midfield right now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like I just got done telling you guys earlier how good of a combination, Colin, Charlie, and Guido make. And then obviously we play Toomey in there sometimes too. But I think it's one of those where, we're talking about, four players for three spots and 34 games, thousands of minutes. It's just like you have to have the depth of quality to be the top team. And with that comes competition and just different guys that can play in different ways. And so I just know he's the right person to come in and do this. And I think he'll provide great leadership. He knows Guido already. There's a relationship there. So it's a great signing, guys. But I don't like to win on paper. I like to win on the pitch. So we have just like any other guy is going to come to preseason, work extremely hard, earn his time, and fit into who we are. And I think I know he's going to take a lot of pride playing in front of all of his friends and family. He's going to probably be requesting tickets every week, and it's going to be really annoying, but we'll work it out.
No, that's amazing, and a lot to it is again showing, and that's something that Loyal is just unilaterally kind of going all in as far as a community. I know Landon was talking earlier today in an interview about a possible academy, obviously building training grounds for Loyal, and so that goes back into it where, as far as our aspect, our everyday kind of jobs that we do is the youth in the future, and who was it? Teach them well, let them lead. Alan, help music, sure.
Oh yeah, you nailed it. Teach them well and let them lead the way. I believe that.
There you go.
I don't want to get us in trouble with YouTube.
But no, that's definitely something that I mean is going to put butts in seats. I'll tell you that much. But it's a step in the right direction. I hope it works out. Tactically speaking, that's kind of the most important part about this. That he's an important piece and he contributes into hopefully getting a championship for this city. And I think the pieces are there. And from what we've seen from this team, what they're capable of, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they develop into their new style. Alan, do you have another question to follow up by any chance?
I was gonna, put it to Nate. Like, is there anything you want to let people know going into preseason? Like, obviously, I think a lot of people are excited. People are looking forward to the season. It's still quite a ways away, but it'll be here tomorrow. So anything, what's that?
And it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun because everyone plays each other, right? You get to see teams that you don't normally see, and that's an added challenge compared to like you play Phoenix 14 times, it seems like. But is there anything kind of message that you want to say, or like mentality that you're coming in to give to San Diego?
No, I don't have like a specific message. It's just not like I'm trying to, like message people what I want them to know. It's like what I think is great for the supporters, Alan, is that like I think it's unique to have supporters like watch the same, like some of the same players over and over again, kind of like fall in love with just what they've become. Like I know that like guys like Elijah and Toomey mean a lot to a lot of people, and like how our guys interact with the community. And I hope that they just like understand that like these guys and this group of people like wants to stay here to play for them in their city, and like people have other opportunities in life, and people choose to stay. And I think that loyalty of choosing to stay somewhere and play for that city, I think is something that should be treasured. I think we're in a culture now or a society that like wants the new person, the new signing, that it's like, what can you up on the next one? But man, like when you really look back, what you'll love is like, I think some of these guys kind of being like legends in the city, and I think that that's the cool thing that we're trying to establish is like, just, tradition and history. And like the locals do a great job of that, like after games, like these are like cool things that we want to, these guys want to be part of the furniture of this club, and that means part of like the furniture with the supporters. And I think that that's something that it's good for everyone to know that we actively try to do, and I think that our job is to improve the players, make them better human beings first. But I think it's good for everyone to know that like these guys want to stay in this city, and I think that that's something to be celebrated, and I think it's really cool.
Oh, definitely, and we're lucky enough to have a front row seat to it all. I do want to thank you because I know for a fact we won't have to turn up our microphones to 11 whenever you do a post-match conference, as you do not whisper into a microphone.
Oh man!
So I'm really excited for that, as I am for many things for this upcoming season. But Nate, thank you for joining us, head coach for San Diego Loyal. We have a great season upcoming, and I'm excited to see what happens, and hopefully we get to see you back. And I'm okay with you peaking whenever you feel you guys need a peak, and we'll be ready for that.
We'll try to be good at the end. All right, guys. Thank you for covering the team. Appreciate you guys. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Bye bye.